Welcome back, everyone. This is DerekJ Speaks, and today we are talking about the latest addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the sequel to the 2018 film, and a movie that had a very tall task of presenting a story and creating this experience for people in light of the unfortunate passing of the true Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, back in 2020. This film underwent a bunch of rewrites and changes, all amounting to the film that we now have at our hands right now. And in my humble opinion, they did a fantastic job. This movie, start to finish, is an excellent film, in my opinion. The emotions in this film, the raw, intense emotions of this film, are what really drives it. This theme of grief and dealing with grief and rage and anger and a sense of protection over your family, and of course significant loss. And I thought all of those themes, all of these different beats came together very well for the most part in this film. Of course, in the film, they acknowledge the passing of Chadwick Boseman, and of course, they attach that to the passing of King T'Challa, who they say very early on in the film has passed away due to some unidentified illness. And we see the kingdom of Wakanda mourning that loss. We get a lot of quiet moments, especially in the very beginning of the film, with the opening Marvel title crawl being completely silent. You barely hear any noise. There's no music in this particular moment here. And we see that at other points in the movie, not just parts that mourn the loss of not only King T'Challa, but also Chadwick Boseman himself. We see a lot of quiet moments there, but we also see quiet moments in different action scenes, which helps kind of really put focus on the action and the brute force of the action going on in these particular moments. In addition to mourning the loss of their beloved king, Wakanda is also dealing with the outside world. Now that King T'Challa is gone, Queen Ramonda, of course played tremendously by Angela Bassett, steps up as the leader of Wakanda, and she is shutting down any attempts to try to mine for any vibranium that's out there, of course, by other countries around the world, specifically the United States. And one particular night, they are searching in the deepest depths of the ocean for some vibranium, and that's where they come across the people of Talokan, the Talokan city, which is basically Atlantis, but, not allowed to say Atlantis for legal reasons. But this is where we are introduced to this underwater city of Talokan, led, of course, by their leader, Namor, whatever you want to call him. They say both ways in the movie, of course, played by Tenoch Huerta, who is just amazing in this role as, I can't even really call him the villain. He's the antagonist for sure, but he's not really necessarily a villain, in my opinion. He is very justified in his decisions and his mindset and his thought process of why he wants to do the things that he does, which is protecting his people. His people are underwater, they're underground. It's this beautiful atmosphere, this beautiful world that they have, but it's very dark. It's very hidden away. No one has discovered it. No one has known about it up until this point. So he's going out of his way to try to protect his people, but in doing so, he is attempting to wage war on the rest of the world. And in this conflict with Wakanda, he is basically offering an olive branch, like, you can join up with me to take out the rest of the world, or if you're against me, you're going to be the first ones to go. And that is kind of what drives this plot here. And of course, he does things throughout the movie that causes that rift and causes that antagonistic relationship between himself and Wakanda, more specifically Princess Shuri, who comes into the forefront in this movie. Letitia Wright, her character was a nice standout, nice side character standout in the first film. A lot of nice jokes, a lot of good energy. In this movie, you don't really get that. She steps up as one of the leads in this film, and she is given a lot of the emotional weight of this film. She comes into it with a lot of grief and a lot of regret. She has not properly mourned the loss of her brother because she blames herself for his passing. All of the science and technology at her fingertips with the vibranium and all the technologically advanced tools at her disposal, none of it could help her to save her brother's life. So she feels a tremendous amount of guilt. And then when she suffers even more loss in this film, she is fueled with rage and anger towards the world, towards the Talakan City, towards Namor, and that all leads to her taking on the mantle of the Black Panther, which is not really much of a shock to anyone. I think many people for these last several years have anticipated that Shuri would be the one to take on the Black Panther mantle. In fact, there is a comic series about Shuri becoming the Black Panther. They even got a nice homage to the cover of that comic book at one point in this film, with her holding the Black Panther helmet in a way that was very similar to the front page of that comic book. So I have no problem with that. You know, she's great in the role, and she's just great in this movie. A lot of the great emotional beats of this film are done when she's on screen, and it's through her eyes and her acting. She was just acting her ass off, as was Angela Bassett. You know, Angela Bassett's going for that Best Supporting Actress Academy Award nomination here in this film with her performance, which, you know, I am all for her getting that kind of recognition because it is well deserved. She is not in the entire film, but for as long as she is on it, she is a powerhouse of an actor in this movie, and any kind of award recognition for her would be well deserved. I mentioned Tenoch Huerta as Namor. He looked really badass. Aside from the wings, the ankle wings, you know, I tried to take it seriously. I really couldn't, but it did play a factor into the film, not on any comedic level, thankfully. Thankfully, there was not a whole lot of comedy in this movie. You did get bits of it here and there, but for the most part, it is very serious. It is very focused on the task at hand, and I appreciate that. But aside from the ankle wings, I really liked Namor's look. I really liked the look of all of the Talakan people. Of course, taking a lot of great painstaking efforts to pay as much respect to the tradition of the Mesoamerican people, specifically with the Mayan civilization highly represented in this film, with the way the characters of the Talakan City look and the way the atmosphere of the world that they are living in looks. And you could tell that director Ryan Coogler went out of his way to make sure that he got the representation just right for those people, and it came across extremely well. It looked very beautiful, and it added to a lot of the great visuals in this movie. Visually, this movie is stunning. It is beautiful. Almost every shot looks like a painting. It just looks incredible. The music, my God, the music in this movie, both from the soundtrack and just the instrumental, the orchestral score of the film. You you get music kind of toned out and you get silent moments in the appropriate times, but a lot of times when that music starts up, it is you feel it. So whatever emotions that the characters are feeling at that moment, or whatever dread or anything like that you're feeling, that music perfectly encapsulates it, in my opinion. Some of the other characters in this film, we get Okoye back, Denai Guerrera back as Okoye. She is also very great in this movie. She kind of gets taken down and sidelined a little bit, but she is brought right back into it and she plays a very great role. We have M'Baku, played by Winston Duke. A lot of the comedic features of this film are kind of condensed to him. Other characters get comedic moments too, but a lot of the main comedy that we see in this movie comes from him and his reactions to things, but he also shows how reserved and how peaceful he really is. And I just like Winston Duke. He's a very talented actor and he has a great charm about him, and he brings that to the role of M'Baku every single time. So definitely would love to see more of him in the future. They introduced Riri Williams in this movie. Of course, Ironheart, played by Dominique Thorne, and she is a main part of the movie only in terms of she is a plot device, in terms of the characters need to get something, they need to get someone, and they need to find someone before someone else does, and all that kind of stuff. And she is that person in this movie. But outside of that, you really did not need her to be in this movie. You did not need this character to be in this movie. I have no problem with her being in the movie. She is very good for the amount of time that she gets, which is not a whole lot. We see her donning her Ironheart suit, her own makeup of it, and of course the big upgraded suit that she gets in Wakanda. She is fighting on the battlefield and all that kind of stuff with everyone else, and she's good in the small limited amount of time that we see her. And it's enough to where it's like I can't really form a full opinion on her character yet. I need to see her fully fleshed out in her own series, which is what's coming down the pipeline. We're getting an Ironheart series on Disney Plus, so I'm sure at that point we'll get to see more of her character fully fleshed out and taking up a true form down the line. But for here, what we got of her was good. It was fine. It just was not enough to really form a one main opinion over the other on whether or not she is a huge part of the future of the MCU or not. We had some other characters. Everett Ross came back in this movie, and he worked alongside Val Fontaine, who we've seen pop up in a few MCU projects up to this point. We saw her in Black Widow. We saw her in Captain America and Winter Soldier, or the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, and of course, we're going to see her again in Thunderbolts in the future. So, she played a role in this movie. The two of them are kind of contained to one another, and it's not really a whole big factor in the movie. We see a lot of the distress coming from the U.S. side, the U.S. government side, heading into this battle against Wakanda, pretty much. That really does not amount to much of anything in this movie. So we'll see if that's something that is just saved and played out in the future. But for this movie, it really did not have a huge impact on anything. The real conflict is between the Talakan City and Wakanda, and that's kind of where the focus comes around in the second half, heading into the big finale of the movie. And of course, can't fail to mention Nakia, played by Lupita Nyong'o. She is really great in this movie as well. Her character has been away from Wakanda since T'Challa's original passing, back when he got snapped out of existence by Thanos. She disappeared for all those years. She didn't come back for T'Challa's funeral, nothing like that. And she has to face a lot of judgment from some of the characters who almost resent her for a brief period of time in the movie for her disappearing and just going away. But you kind of know underneath that there was a reason for it, and they reveal that big reason at the end of the movie after the credits. Well, not after the credits, but in the mid-credit scene. We do get a mid-credit stinger in this movie, and it follows up on the end of the film where Shuri is at this beach in Haiti. She's paying her last respects to her brother, and that is when we are introduced to Nakia and T'Challa's son. They had a child in secret, and he is revealed to Shuri in this scene, named Toussaint. And on top of that is revealed that Toussaint is his Haitian name, and his real name is Prince T'Challa. So this adds to some of the feelings that the Shuri character is feeling, where she has lost pretty much all of her main directly blood-linked family members in this movie, and she has to grow and build herself back up from all of that loss. And here it is revealed that she does still have family with her. There is still members of her bloodline connected to her here. And so I thought that was a very beautiful ending for this film, a nice fitting ending for this film. And that's really all there is to it. There's some aspects of the movie that I didn't love a whole lot. You know, they have certain characters in there, really don't need to be there. The movie, I didn't think it was too long. I think they could have shaved a few minutes off, just a little bit. It's about 2 hours and 40 minutes. You could have cut down a little bit, but it's hard to go in and look at, okay, this absolutely needs to go or anything like that. I think for the most part, everything fits where it's supposed to. You know, driving the story forward and all that. I think everything fits for the most part, but I do think maybe if you look really hard, you can cut out and cut down on a few scenes in this movie. The CGI on the Black Panther suit, when it's in action, still looks a little weak. That was one of my criticisms of the first Black Panther movie, and it kind of also plays a role here. And the shiny new Ironheart suit that Riri Williams gets while she's in Wakanda looks a little weird and does not look the best, but I will say the CGI in this movie is much better than the first one. So there's no awful looking rhinos in this movie. They have elephants, they have these sea animals. The CGI on all of those looks absolutely amazing, but it's just when you see the costumes kind of in motion and in action, flying around and all that, it's a little jarring. But honestly, outside of all of that, I really can't criticize this movie too harshly, because there is not really much, in my opinion, that I can really criticize. I see there's a lot of mixed reviews for this movie online from a lot of critics, but in my opinion, maybe I'm biased. I don't really care. I just didn't really see too many main issues with this movie. I think they had a very tall task of delivering an impactful story in light of the passing of Chadwick Boseman. And I think director Ryan Coogler and that entire team of production crew, the actors, everyone, costume designers, everyone brought this movie and brought the story to life, and they did it justice, and I believe they made Chadwick proud with this movie. So that is all I have to say about this. If you have any thoughts on this movie, leave a comment down below, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter at DerekJ Speaks for more content throughout the week. And as always, take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.